Hey, welcome to the Drip and Stone podcast, a podcast where two friends raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing really well. It's an odd recording day for us, and we're recording through the magic of the internet, so it's a Sunday for us.
Yeah. Enjoying the weekend?
So far, yeah. It's a Sunday, so unfortunately the weekend is slowly or quickly, I don't know which, coming to an end, but that doesn't mean that we can't share a pour together and have a conversation.
Heck yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, we're set up here to do it, so might as well.
I mean, we might as well. Absolutely.
We've already had the discussion of what we're doing, what we're going to drink, and all that kind of good stuff. So, yeah, might as well just go ahead and full out do it. You never know what's going to happen.
I am here lately, am into exploration of different kinds of distilled spirits.
Ooh.
And this happens from time to time where, I feel like you kind of get into I've had all the brown liquid that I want right now, and I want to try some other things.
Agree.
Something that I've become interested in here recently is the world of Mezcal. Do you know about the world of Mezcal?
I'm aware of it.
Mezcal is a distilled spirit from an agave plant.
Yeah, south of the border.
And the most popular Mezcal is tequila.
Correct.
Yeah, because all tequila is Mezcal, but not all Mezcal is tequila.
Yeah, one of those fun things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's starting to warm up outside, at least in our parts of the world.
Yeah, we've are well on our way through the spring season and starting to approach that summertime vibe.
Or depending on when we release this, we're well into summer at this point.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows when it is?
I mean, I've had swamp ass since last swamp ass season.
It's year round down here.
I'm in the whiskey cave, and I've got the fan off just for sound purposes, and
it's heating up real quick.
But I bring this up because, well, you and I both know we're going to do a mezcal, but one of my favorite cocktails as a whole, and I think I don't know if I can speak for you, but I know a favorite cocktail of yours is also
the margarita. Yeah,
man,
it's an absolute summer classic.
And what's better than a distilled spirit and some lime and a little bit of sour notes going on there?
Some agave syrup.
Hell yeah! So before we get into this, what is your quintessential margarita recipe? Like, what are you doing?
I mean, I'm traditionally going to be using a tequila, and then I do that with some lime juice, fresh if preferable if you can make that happen. I like to do a little bit of Cointreau, a little bit of agave syrup, some shake on some ice, give it a pour in a nice little rocks glass. I'm not necessarily what's the glass that you normally see it in, like the tub glasses.
Yeah,
I actually kind of like my margaritas in a rocks glass personally. But it's got to have salt on it. Got to have salt on that rim.
Honestly, exactly the same. For me, it's I'll give you the specs. It's 2 ounces of tequila.
Yep.
It's an ounce of Cointreau.
Yep.
Maybe a 3/4 ounce, depending on where I'm feeling, and then an ounce of lime juice. I prefer fresh lime juice, and but like you said, if I don't have it, I'll use the bottled stuff. Although, it's kind of lifeless, and right. Depending on if I want just a touch of sweet, I usually go with like a turbinado cane sugar simple syrup or something like that. Because I don't have agave syrup in the house, so usually that's what I go through. Although I did make one recently with maple syrup, and it didn't change the flavor profile, but it was fantastic. I too want mine in a rocks glass. I don't want that. I don't know what you hold the stem and it's got it's like a Manhattan. Yeah. Is it a Manhattan, like a Cosmo glass? I don't know.
I enjoy a coupe glass, but it's the oversized aspect of it, the bathtub. I mean, I'm not opposed to a coupe glass, but that doesn't really once you put the ice in that, you're getting 2 or 3 sips of a margarita.
Right.
The coupe glass doesn't need anything else in it. It's just the cocktail in it.
Nah, for me, I want a rocks glass. I mean, and if I'm gonna make me a big boy, I'll put it in a beer glass, a big beer glass. If you're going to do a double. Oh, yeah. Man, listen, if you're screw it. We're sitting by the pool today. And by sitting by the pool, I mean by the pool today.
I don't want to have to get up in a half hour and make another one of these.
Half hour?
5 minutes.
Margarita. There it is. So I'll put that in a big beer stein kind of glass or a lager glass. Yeah. But that's not what we're doing today.
No.
Today we're doing straight up mezcals. What's your experience with the mezcal?
It's brief at this point in time. Obviously, like aware of it, but don't have much of a history with it. And with the margarita experimentations we've been doing at the house here recently, me and the wife wanted to experiment with some mezcal, so we bought a bottle.
Yeah, same for me. Like I know I've had mezcals. I know a little bit about mezcal, but I haven't had enough to say like, I really like this or I'm not a big fan. And I haven't had enough experience with different varieties to really like, I don't know, have a breadth of knowledge, but I'm wanting to explore that as we said earlier.
Indeed.
So you want to get into it?
All right.
I say we go with the Glencairn. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm still gonna do a Glencairn just for the purposes of pure exploration.
Liquid investigation.
Yes, yeah. I still want to be able to, get the nose, get a nice swirl on it, really open up the palate. And I just don't think you can do that with anything better than a Glencairn.
As much as we've already just talked about the margarita, and I'm sure we're going to do a margarita episode, but I feel like in order to truly taste the spirit itself, it has to be neat.
Yeah, for sure. Get it full force.
What are you bringing to the table? What are you trying?
I've got the Dos Hombres Mezcal Artisanal.
Ooh.
Apparently, it's one of those celebrity bottles, which I don't know why is so popular with tequila and I guess mezcal. I'm not sure who the first guy is. I want to say it says Aaron Paul, but I'm not sure who that is. But the second guy is Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston and the guy who plays Jesse.
Oh, are they both from Breaking Bad?
Yeah, both from Breaking Bad.
Gotcha.
I think, okay, so I think what like the celebrity mezcal and tequila game is really based on like accessibility and how easy it is. I don't want to say it's easy to make this product, but it's not aged as it is like with a bourbon. So it's a little bit of a faster turnaround. And I think it's just one of those things like it's easier to make this right now. So that's the easier business. I don't know that for sure, but
like, wouldn't you say the same thing with gin? And I can't name you a celebrity gin off the top of my head other than Ryan Reynolds, Aviation.
Yeah. But I think like gin is not as popular here in the US. Like there are, a lot of people who love gin.
Sure.
But like tequila and mezcal is more popular here in the U.S., I think. And I think it's just
I could riddle off 5 or 6 tequilas.
Easy.
But anyway. And which bottle are you bringing to the table, sir?
So I'm actually bringing a bottle courtesy of our friends at Flaviar. And this is the 400 Cornejos Mezcal, also a product of Mexico. You can see I've got the little taster from Flaviar. This is also, like on yours, it says Joven, Joven, or Joven, maybe, because it's Spanish. And I think that's just the type of mezcal. But yeah, that's the 400 Cornejos is what I got.
Nice. Thanks, Flaviar.
Yeah, you got an ABV on yours?
Yeah, I do. It is 42.
Mine's 40. You ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Mine's not going to sound as nice. No sound.
Sounded amazing.
Did you pour?
I poured.
Me too. Ooh, woo, woo.
Hey now.
Mezcal is in the air. Man. Like I got it on my hands. That smells fantastic.
Yeah.
It smells like a barbecue. Holy crap. I'm going to rub that in. So my experience with mezcals is that they're generally on the smoky side. I know they don't have to be technically, but everyone I've had so far is a little bit smoky.
It's because they roast the agave, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Does yours have a tinge of color to it?
No, mine is just clear.
Yeah, no, mine too. I looking at it in the video, I thought yours had like just slight yellowing to it. Yeah, no, mine's the same way. Mine just, you could tell me it was water. I believe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, not on the smell because like I ain't drinking water that smells like
pungent. It's pungent.
Man, for me, it's super peppery. It's like it's smoky and peppery. That smells fantastic.
We tried this for the first time yesterday. The prominent note was leather.
Oh,
like shoe leather.
Yeah, like boot leather.
Yeah, I get the same peppery sense that you're bringing, and just kind of like that traditional tequila agave note is kind of subdued, It's
Yeah.
definitely there. You would definitely know that this is a mezcal, but it is kind of like off to the side. Whereas like I feel like traditionally like you smell like a pure tequila, and it's more like quote unquote smells like a margarita, and it just has like
Yeah.
that almost like you can already like smell the salt and lime going along with it.
See, what's really interesting in sipping these spirits neat, for me anyway, is that like I almost prefer a lower quality tequila in my margarita. In that, like, and when I say lower quality, I mean like a Jose Cuervo, because
Sure.
it has like that, to me, what is now a quintessential margarita taste
Right.
in the tequila. Obviously, we've done tequilas on the pod before. I think we've done one or two. So that quintessential tequila note to me on something like a more crafted product, like we did the Terramana, like it doesn't scream margarita to me.
Right. For sure. How about proof? Is it twinging your nose, or is it pretty well you can just kind of take in a deep breath?
I don't know. Like I think because that tequila note is so pungent and sour anyway, that I don't know if it's proof that's doing that on the nose, or if it's that note doing it on the nose. But yeah,
Right.
it's a little bit like a whew, kind of causes your eyes to squint a little bit. And you're like, okay. What about you?
I mean, there's definitely something like from the alcohol that's giving it, some sort of a different like aroma that's different from whiskey.
Definitely.
Like this one, it seems to be more like trying to think of a word that's not off-putting, like
Medicinal?
acetone.
Yeah. Paint thinner.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Whereas like I feel like we've always kind of described like most of the time with whiskey, it's more of a ethanol.
And I think that's because with whiskey, you're mellowing it all in a barrel.
Right.
So like you're not only are you taking on the flavors of the wood itself, but you're also allowing the liquid to enter into the wood and then out of the wood with those temperature swings. So my assumption is not only does that impart flavor, but that also rounds out that liquid a little bit more and makes it, I don't want to say more pure because I don't think that that's it, but it changes that note, obviously.
Right.
Whereas something like a gin, or in this case, a mezcal or a tequila, or even a vodka, you're getting the alcohol in its like full state.
Right. Yeah.
And then basically just cut with water.
That brand new pair of shoe leather smell is so specific.
Oh yeah. It's like
you're in the back room of a shoe store and just all these
totally
boxes of shoes.
Exactly what it is. All right.
Gotta get some on my palate.
Let's do it.
Man, it's bitey.
That is so pepper forward for me. Whoa.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of like a roasted jalapeno, but like not the fiery spice, but just like that roasted skin.
Yeah, like it's exactly it. It's the roasted skin, but for me, I'm getting spice. I'm getting spicy. Initially, like I thought maybe it's just me just associating this with, obviously eating Mexican food and tacos and stuff and having that spicy nature. But like, no, this is like, it's actually spicy.
Yeah. It's got a little spice to it. And that smoky barbecue-y note is so interesting and different. Like, cause it's still close enough to tequila that it still conjures those kinds of like mouth-watering things. But then it has this like nice roasted note with it. And it is more like a roasty kind of a note, not necessarily just smoky.
Right.
So it's like it's bringing like roasted corn and roasted peppers and stuff to my mind, and it's like it's absolutely delightful.
It reminds me so much of Bizarrebecue. That back of the palate on the like right behind where your jaw meets your like right here. I'm pointing to you like just right underneath your ears, like where you just start to salivate all through there, and you're like, oh my god! Like for me, that's where I'm tasting it all right there.
Yeah, it definitely triggers all of that.
Oh yeah, like the salivary thing definitely is going on for me.
Did you just have like any kind of a sweet note?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. For me, it's a bright, fresh, sweet, like an herbal tea. If you were to like put some honey in it, or maybe like a just like a bright, fresh, like banana, but there's no like one, it's not a banana note. It's just like that fresh, like super bright fruit nature.
Right.
What about you?
The sweetness is kind of simplified of it just being kind of just like pure, like sugar, just like cane sugar. the flavor of the sweetness is actually like really reminiscent to me of the sweetness that's on the Botanist gin.
Oh yeah.
Of like, I always like picture in that one of like just like these ribbons of like sugar confectionery, and the sweetness, like the flavor of the sweet is reminding me of that, but like at a much lower volume. Like the sweetness on the Botanist gin is like probably like at like a 7 or an 8. Like the sweetness on this is somewhere like around like a 2 or a 3. Like it's there, but it's really quiet.
Similar, very, very similar for me. It's definitely there. And to me, like, I only really notice the sweet when I'm thinking about it in comparison to the herbal, smoky, earthy notes.
Right.
And so, like, I don't know if it's just because the earthy, leathery, smoky notes are so prominent that like that sweet just kind of fades into the background. But yeah, like it's there, but it's like you get hints of it.
Yeah. But what's really fascinating about the sip as a whole, like from the moment I take the sip all the way through mid palate and then the finish and everything, like there's this like effervescent almost leather note that happens the entire time, of as if like I had literally like a piece of leather in my mouth. Like it's that specific that like I can get all the other flavors. I can get the roasted pepper and the sugar and the tequila, the agave. I get all of that happening, but like there's always this like layer of like a blanket of leather that's like over all of it.
I agree completely. For me, like, I don't know if you've ever spent time around horses.
Sure.
When you take a saddle off of a horse, you know, especially a horse that like is, you know, it's sweat, it's that horse animal smell.
Wet leather.
Yeah, but the leather itself has a particular smell. It's not bad. It's not like, you know, it's not a sweat. I don't know how to describe it other than
rustic.
It's super earthy.
Yeah.
And it's a smell that's like that. It's very specific in that way. And to me, this is what that evokes for me. It's like it on the nose, it's a little more shoe leather or a little more like bright, fresh shoe store. But then on the palate, it's more beaten and worn in and like used leather. And like it has that patina on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating. Like the old movies and everything, like the cowboy goes in the saloon, he orders a whiskey, and like certainly like that can also fit. But like this to me, like everything about this conjures the West. And,
absolutely.
You know, horse riding, like exactly like what you're saying. Like it just it conjures up all of that so specifically, and I think even more so than whiskey does.
Yeah.
When I drink this, I certainly think the West. I think Texas. I think, you know, New Mexico, obviously Mexico. Like I'm put out there.
Yeah.
In such a specific way.
Like I know you haven't spent a whole lot of time in the Southwest, but like
zero time aside from a week in Southern California to visit the Mouse House.
I don't think that counts as the Southwest. I know it's Southern and Western, but it's not. When I say Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas.
Yeah. Never made it up. Not yet.
I love the desert. Like the desert is so pretty to me. And like when I think about desert, this makes sense. This like it absolutely makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Good
That's
stuff.
Fantastic. It is really good. I love that, like that exploration into new things too. It's like, wait, how does this fit against things that I already know? You know, how does this work with what information I already have, and how does drinking this thing also influence my understanding of all the other things?
Right.
I mean, we've talked about that. That's why I love doing tastings. It's
that's why we do this whole thing, is like just for that exploration, and because it's fun as hell.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we have a great drink, you want to talk about something?
Sure.
Oh, I don't have any more, so I'm just going to sip slowly.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. So, you know, I was thinking that because we're in the travel perspective, whether we're planning for a trip or whether we're on trips right now, just, you know, in terms of how all the time works when this episode releases, a saying that I think goes along with this kind of perspective of travel and movement, a proverb, an aphorism, if you will, is the saying, "A rolling stone gathers no moss."
Sure. I've heard that. Yeah.
I feel like it has both positive and negative connotations. And I've always taken it as the positive of moss, the accumulation of moss would be the negative thing. You
Right.
don't want to accumulate too much moss.
Right.
So you got to keep moving.
Keep moving, stay fresh. Don't let the moss overtake you.
Right. So that's always been my take.
Yeah.
But I was reading a post about this, and
you got a spin on it.
Yeah. So the spin was that because the moss in context symbolizes like accumulation. Obviously, a moss accumulates on a tree, accumulates on a rock or whatever.
Right.
That because a rolling stone doesn't accumulate any moss or doesn't gather any moss, that the negative or the negation is that the stone, in the metaphor, the person is unattached and has no roots. And that's
Sure.
a negative thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it just got me thinking about like that proverb and that idea of how this one thing can be both a positive and a negative.
Yeah. I mean, and I think as a great proverb should, you can relate to both sides of it and see both arguments. And, is it an issue of balance? Is it trying to get just the right amount of moss before you continue rolling? Or, does movement entail removal of the moss? Can you bring some of the moss with you?
Right. So okay. So let's start here. Do you think like at its root, this proverb, do you think it champions stability? Or do you think it warns against the pitfalls of the restless spirit?
I mean, I think I'm right there with you in terms of like I've always used in a way to suggest that you should not be don't become accustomed to where you currently are. Try to stay fresh. Try to stay advancing. Don't just succumb to your current state of being. Always be willing to learn something new or improve yourself in some way. I've always felt that was like the connotation to the saying, and to not get stale, more or less. But I suppose, it certainly is easy to look at it in the other way of very, dissectingly, is how do you view the moss?
Right.
Is the moss a beautiful thing that's adding character, that's adding a depth of layers? Is it something that's adding benefit, or is the moss like covering up your individuality kind of a thing? And now you've become kind of restricted by it.
Man, that's such a good point, because like when you think about like what the proverb is presenting, it's presenting two parts, kind of a dual metaphor.
Right.
The metaphor of the individual is the stone, and the moss is the accumulation.
Right.
How do we view both moss and stone? On one side, if you as the stone, if you have all these intricate patterns, you're made of all of this different composition of stuff, is that in and of itself good without anything else? Like, it doesn't need anything else, doesn't need any sort of accumulation. Or you look at this moss as the accumulation adds to the quality of the stone,
right?
Adds to the meaning of the stone, if you will. On the other side of that, like you just mentioned, is the accumulation of this moss covering up the stone? Does it detract from what that stone is? That's super interesting, because it really comes down to how do you perceive stone and moss and the relationship of the two.
Yeah. I mean, is there any benefit for the stone of the moss? Like, does it provide protection? Does it in any way preserve the stone? I don't know, but I think it's just like that's like kind of the crux of it, is how do you view the moss? Is it something that adds depth and beauty, or is it something that is restricting and covering and not allowing you to be what you are?
So I think it's like it comes down to like the moss is either this version of stagnation or version of growth. Stagnation because you're in one spot and you've accumulated that moss, which in that context is ugly. or you've stayed in one spot and you've accumulated this moss, and that's beautiful because now you have all this moss, and that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see an argument for both because it's like, yes, like, you don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to be stale and have things overtake you because you're unwilling to move. But at the same time, I think you could also look at like growing roots and, settling down is also, I think, also a proverb that people look to aspire to in terms of once you get your nest built and you settle into it and you want that to uh, grow and become just as much a part of you as your individual stone aspect is anyway.
Yeah. I think what's really why I'm drawn to this proverb as well is that it's not one of those proverbs that's a universal truth. It's not one
Sure.
of those like the golden rule kind of thing.
Right.
And to me, this is what makes it one of my favorite, and dare I say, maybe even one of the best proverbs, is that what it does is it becomes a catalyst for self-reflection.
Right.
And I think that like that's what a good, in this case, proverb does, is that it presents both the sayer of the proverb and the hearer, if you will, with this like, okay, how do I perceive this? What are the next questions do I need?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of reminding me of like the parable of like the guy that like all this bad stuff keeps happening to him, and like people come to him and say, "Oh man, that thing happened. Like, well, that's awful." And he says, "Well, I don't know yet. Maybe that is awful, but maybe it's actually a good thing."
Right.
And it's almost always turns out to be a good thing. Like it looks like it's this awful, horrible thing that makes you so would make a lot of people just give up and stop trying. But the guy's like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's bad, but maybe it's good. It's kind of reminded me of something like that. Of like, yes, like a rolling stone will gather no moss, but at some point in time, it's okay to grow that moss and to settle in and accept it. But at the same time, you don't need to fear being overtaken by the moss. If that's starting to happen, you can just roll along.
What you just said, like, man, just sparked this kind of thing in my mind of like, have you ever rolled a big stone?
Sure.
It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you pick up like you pick up a big rock and you got to move it from A to B. It takes
Or
a lot
you
of
got to
effort.
clear a lot of the stuff out of the way first to loosen it out.
Exactly. So I'm thinking like the kind of cataclysmic event that might take for that rock to move. Kind of what you just mentioned, that kind of story of, in order for a rock to come loose from like a high place, a cliffside or whatever, like something has to happen for that rock to be dislodged. Or right. If the rock is, let's say it's by the ocean, like some sort of big wave or big seismic activity has to come along to move that rock, or something has to happen. So that thing that happens can also be something that can be seen as a negative as well.
Right.
That like this thing, like that just shook the rock, the individual, to their core and made them move. So right. it isn't always a positive.
Yeah. Got to wait and see.
Well, you got to wait and see. And I just think about like how many stories and how many like personal stories is it like people are running away from something. They think they're running to something, but maybe they're running away from something. So that idea of, not gathering any moss then becomes a negative because, sure, they're not accumulating these things, but you're never really truly figuring anything out. You're not, I guess, confronting the thing that has pushed you along, that's made you move.
Right.
So for me, I think like ultimately it's the self-reflection aspect, and it offers a kind of a constant reminder of these perspectives of long-term choices too, and consequences.
Right. Yeah. And just assessing your moss.
Right.
Do you enjoy your moss? And if not, maybe it's time to roll on.
Right. And this isn't about limiting potential either. Like, yes, you are a stone, you have gathered moss, but that's not a bad thing.
Right. Or, I think you could also kind of read it as like like a journey of right. Like, maybe the goal is to achieve moss. maybe that's what you're trying to do. But right now you're a young person, you're rolling through life. you haven't had the opportunity to grow moss. That's where you're trying to get to, but you've got to find the right spot for you to settle down.
Yeah. And on the other respect, you're older in life and you have grown moss, and now you need to shake that off. Like now it's time to roll again and figure some more things out.
Right.
Oh man. That's so good.
Yeah.
I love things like that.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, on that note, you got anything else?
I've got a sip of Mezcal left that I'm going to sit here and enjoy.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you about your final thoughts on it, the Mezcal.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So what are your final thoughts on the Mezcal?
Oh man, didn't see that coming. I mean, it's that time of year. Like it fits really well with this, starting to tiptoe into the summer season. It's reminding me of everything that I love about the summer. I mean, it tastes like a hot summer day in the best way imaginable. Man, I don't know if we did a single tequila last year. I feel like the tequilas that we did were like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they were.
Like we did a tequila tasting on a boat at some point in time. And like every time I start to tiptoe into tequila and mezcal, it's always like, oh yeah, no, this is like a whole new thing to dip into. And for whatever reason, I always gravitate back to the whiskey. But this is definitely like another door open and just a little bit further into that world that I really enjoy experimenting with.
So cool. Well, we'd love to know what you think about mezcal as a whole. What brands have you had?
Yeah, go ahead and like hit us up with some recommendations that we can start looking out for, and gonna open and expand our minds into the mezcal scene.
Yeah, and I want to know, what is your favorite margarita recipe? Give us the specs.
For sure, it's just that time of year.
It truly is. Yeah. Lime, tequila, or mezcal, and a couple of other things, and you are in business.
Yes, indeed.
And we'd also like to know, what is your take on the proverb, a rolling stone gathers no moss?
Yeah, more of a positive attribute to it, or is it more of a cautionary tale of don't settle down too quickly?
You can get in touch with us through email. That's drepandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's always one word, Drep and Stone, DREP and Stone. Come find us, like us, comment on a thing, share a thing. We'd love to hear from you. We'll get right back to you.
Yeah, and check out our tastings that are going on. You can find that all over social media, too. Those are a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun doing those.
Oh, man. Maybe we need to do a tequila one.
Oh, we probably already have. If not, we will.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea. Tequila and Dunkin' Donuts. Doesn't work.
Don't work.
Awful.
And we'd love it if you support the podcast, and you can do so through rating us wherever it is you find great podcasts like this one. You can support us on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/drepandstone. A couple bucks here and there helps keep the recording machine recording and the fan on and the AC on full blast.
We need it.
You can also help us out by going to flaviar.com using the promo code DSP10, DSP10 for $10 off a $100 order. You can use that for shipping. You can use that for buying a special birthday bottle, whatever it is that you'd like.
Heck yeah.
And finally, we'd love it if you tell someone about Drep and Stone.
Yeah, just let a buddy know.
Yeah, you're at the pool.
Yeah, working on your cannonballs.
Right. You come back up to the surface, and there's a person standing there. And they're like, hey, I'm at this pool too. Your cannonball practice has got me soaked, and I was just here sunning.
Well, that's okay, man. Like rate my cannonballs first of all. 1 to 10. What did you think?
7.5. I think you could use a little bit of work, but you're doing well.
Not bad. I'll take it.
Okay.
What are you listening to right now?
Well, now that my earbuds are broken because they're drenched, I was listening to a podcast called Drep and Stone. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I have. No, they're great, man. That's good stuff.
Let's go get a drink. What do you think?
All right. Sounds good. Let me dry out.
Well, me too. It's that easy.
That was super easy.
Everyone's confused now. Just tell someone about Drep and Stone. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah. You'll have way more success than we do. It's way easier than we make it look. I promise.
It's way easier. On that note, hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
May your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
too much avocado.
It's coming to an end. You look confused.
Yeah, there's got like a weird.
Did it do something?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Like,
I could. Yours is bigger on my screen, so I can't. I can't see it. I want you in high definition.
whoa,
So I'm really small.
nice. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to turn you on.